Well, a first-gen student, immigrant to this country, moved over here very early 90s, 92, 93. Came here with no intent of going to college. And, just serendipitously, I found the right spot and kind of went into higher ed. Very fortunate, amazing people that I've met in my life on my journey, and kind of want to give back on that a little bit. So back in, I think it was 2007, had a tenure track position lined up. The economy went a little bit belly up, and saw an advert for Eastern Kentucky. It's not a place I ever had on my radar. Decided to come and do an interview kind of impulsively. Got the interview, came down, and the day I was done, I mean, the mission of this institution, the things they do, I was like, I really would actually like this. Got the position and moved down here and decided basically never to leave. And so I've been very fortunate. There's something about this institution, its mission and what it does for our community that just got me. The first time I heard it, school of opportunity. I mean, just the words, a school of opportunity for anybody that wants to better themselves through education. Just sold me on this place and been here ever since. My undergrad degree is a little bit in comparative literature and hard science. I did a master's in herpetology, studying amphibians and reptiles, my PhD in parasitology, and I thought I would be an educator per se. I never imagined myself going into administration, but it's kind of a natural extension of what you do in the classroom, right? So I might not be teaching students directly, but I get to work with young professionals. I get to change processes and systems and kind of get that focus on what's so important. And so in a way it chose me, right? Or, the universe, depending on what your belief is, like metaphysical, but that's serendipity played a large role. I kind of took every opportunity I got, and this is where I ended up. But my trajectory wasn't a straight one, and I don't think anybody's really is, right? I'm always envious of people that say, I was 3 when I decided I want to be a doctor, and they end up being a doctor. My journey wasn't a straight line like that, but in the end, I'm happy where I am. It's not settling, it's not compromising, it's just taking the opportunities that the universe offers you. And so that was my journey to higher ed. If you told me when I was 18 years old I would end up in higher ed, I would have laughed at you. And here I am. I'm incredibly content. Of all the places I've been in the world, right, this is the place that reminds me most of where I grew up. And so I left home pretty young and traveled the world quite a bit. But there's something about Eastern Kentucky. So I actually had less culture shock here than any other place I've been. As an immigrant, for us, oftentimes, and we're starting to talk about it, as an immigrant, you're always the guy that came. And where you're from, you're always the guy that left. So you kind of become in space and time kind of like an orphan. And so when you find this place where you get that feeling of home, the thing that I love about this place is its dedication and its absolute promotion of family. And so it's a word that easily rolls off the tongue, family. But if we create that culture around it, that's it. So for me, the culture shock, of course, there's always a little bit, but it's a beautiful place, amazing people, and people that honestly care about their fellow man and try and do that. It's also a place that has poverty and all these other kind of social issues, but it makes it real. That's where I grew up in too. And so the culture shock here was actually less for me than in any other place I've ever been. And I wonder if that's the attraction that kept me here. I've raised my children here. My children see themselves as from Eastern Kentucky. They don't see themselves as the kids of immigrants. They see themselves as somebody that grew up in this place and want to come back here. My son is in Florida right now. And so when he comes home, he's out, goes and sees it, sees himself as a bubby in a little way, if I can say that, if people understand what that means. If we look at the way that technology's changed the world, so we can basically, content by itself, it's amazing to have a professor that help you with content, but I think liberal arts education is that broad exposure. We just talk about journeys and trajectories that's not straight. I think, knowing a little bit of your background and then my own background, our trajectory wasn't straight. It's 10 years ago, I want to be a scientist. I want to do research in Africa and stuff. And then all of a sudden, you get these kind of opportunities. And I think it only can come through a liberal arts education where you're broadly exposed. So general education is incredibly important. I've known people that wanted to be a doctor and then took an art class, and all of a sudden the trajectory changes. And so I think that's it. But I also think it's the soft skills behind it, the employability of people that's been broadly exposed, that can talk. And so in the end, then it's this exposure to broad opportunity that we didn't know about before. So if you have the straight trajectory, this is what I'm going to be, and all of a sudden you get a passionate faculty member that's teaching somebody so far outside of your realm, and you start seeing the possibility. I think that's where it's at. It makes us able to flex, to pivot, and to take advantage of opportunities offered to us. Our mission is to give an education to the mountains. That's what it was founded on 122 years ago, I think, a few weeks ago. But the fact that we live our mission, so if you look at faculty, if you look at staff, if you look at even students, we live that mission. I can think back to this year, 606, right? The whole area with the flooding. The Monday after the flooding started, we had a team of 150 in the field. And it wasn't just them, it was a whole community stepping up. I think what made UPIKE special, and I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, is that absolute focus on our mission, and then this idea of family. It's relational. It's not a process, it's not a system, although we have those things going on, but it is about people in the end, and accountability to each other and what we're trying to do. So I think for me personally, it is that focus. That's what I try and live every day. I try and live our mission. I try and find those points where maybe our students didn't have an opportunity, which was me 20, 30 years ago, that didn't have that opportunity. And I think back, in a way, it's also that giving back idea. There was people in my life, and I can name them, Stuart Allison, Susan Johnson, people that just took through their decency and liking to me and promoted higher ed to me as a way to make a living. And I think we pay those debts back to the people that came before us. And I think as an institution, UPIKE lives that too. This area has been good to us, and as a collective, we are trying to live that forward. I kind of gave you that analogy that sometimes immigrants like me, we aren't from where we are. In the 20 years we've been gone, life moved on, and we aren't from here. So we never grew up here. We don't have those connections. It's finding a home, and it sounds trite. You might seem a little bit pretentious, but I honestly found a home at the University of Pikeville, in this community, Pikeville in general, Pike County, Eastern Kentucky. And so oftentimes people ask, why are you here? What made you come to Eastern Kentucky? It wasn't planned. I never thought I would end up here. But this is my home, and so oftentimes when people ask me, where you from? And I say, I'm from Pikeville, Kentucky. They hear my accent, and so you could see kind of in their eyes, or they ask you, where's your home? My home is in Pikeville, Kentucky. So initially what they want to know is, where did I come from? But I'm not from there, I'm from here. This is where my life is, this is where my family is, this is where my love is, this is where I work. And so oftentimes when you ask people, especially when we're traveling, and they're like, where you from? Pikeville, Kentucky. And they kind of laugh a little bit. But I think that's it, right? This is my home. It doesn't matter where I was born or where I lived. And I think for many of our students, that is becoming reality too. We have many students that come here from other places and never leave. So in that way, we've truly become a destination campus. People find their home here. They find their loves here. They find their future here. And I think that's it. So in my life, I can tell you honestly, since 1988, I haven't been in any place longer than about 5-6 years. I've been here for more than a decade now, and I'm not planning to go anywhere. And it's because I've found that comfort, that feeling of home. I found that, yeah. And I think the university obviously played an amazing role in that.